The music industry or just a creative career in general is tough as it is. Add in being highly sensitive and it's even harder.
Welcome to the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Artist Podcast. Ready to journey in boundless creativity, purpose, and adventure as a creative soul? Hey, I'm Lara Bianca Pilcher. I'm passionate about empowering you to live out your creative dreams and nurture yourself at the core of your journey. Let's delve into the art of vibrant living, artistry, and creative expression. As an artist, actor, and showbiz educator with over 20 years of experience in the arts and entertainment industry across London, Australia, and now Atlanta, USA, I'm here to guide you through the twists and turns of this ever-evolving creative world. As an educator and life coach, I've had the privilege of guiding aspiring and professional artists and creative people from all walks of life. So when you tune into this podcast, you can expect nothing less than genuine conversations that have shaped my journey. It's a brave adventure I'm excited to share with you. Imagine this podcast as your masterclass where you'll learn how to craft a fulfilling and vibrant creative life. Get ready for the Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Artist Podcast, your key to unlocking the full potential of your creative soul. Stay tuned for enlightening conversations, practical tips, and inspiring stories that will elevate your artistry, life, and creative journey. Welcome to another episode of the podcast, Healthy, Wealthy, Wise Artist. I'm your host, Lara, and we're diving into a topic that many of us can relate to, being a highly sensitive person. Have you ever been told you need to get a thicker skin, or you've thought that about yourself, or found yourself repeating the mantra to cope with the challenges of daily life, get a thicker skin? If so, you're not alone. As a highly sensitive person navigating through conflict, creativity, artistry, criticism, or just absorbing other people's negative energy a lot can feel like a real struggle. In this episode, I have a special guest joining me, Steph, who's a talented Los Angeles recording artist, and she'll share her story of sitting in her therapist's office at 30 years old and discovering that she was a highly sensitive person, commonly referred to as an empath, which just means somebody that has a lot of empathy. Other people might have other definitions, but that's my definition. Her journey is a fascinating exploration of self-discovery and learning how to navigate the unique challenges and gifts of being highly sensitive. Our ability to feel things deeply in a unique way is part of being a creative, part of being an artist, and it can propel you forward in your personal and professional life when you know how. I would say that I am a highly sensitive person as well, and it has definitely played a wonderful pivotal role in shaping my journey and the work that I do in the artist world. So throughout the episode, there'll be practical strategies that have helped me and Steph leverage this gift while minimizing its downsides. So if you've ever wondered how to turn your sensitivity into an asset, stay tuned. My goal is that the lessons resonate with you and offer valuable guidance on embracing your sensitivity, also upping your self-care for the kind of personality you have, and being a healthier, wealthier, wiser artist. Let's dive in. Welcome, Steph. Now, you create self-care resources for artists, and I'm going to get you to share all about that. But let's start with your story as to why. Why did you feel the need to create these resources for others? What brought you to that place?
Sure. So I've spent about 2 decades in the music industry as an artist and a songwriter. And when I first started at about 18, I suffered from severe depression for about 6 months, and my entire life sort of just blacked out. And I had no idea how to cope with depression, didn't know what was happening to me. And at my worst was suicidal, didn't want to be here anymore. And so that was my first sort of real challenge as a young adult in a new sort of world and going after a career that's really unconventional. And then fast forward to being about 30, I'm sitting in my therapist's office and she asked me if I knew what empaths and highly sensitive people were. And I was like, no, what's that? And she kind of broke it down. I was like, wait a second, this is what I've been my entire life. Had I known just a couple of things, a couple of coping techniques or strategies, things could have been a lot different for me. The music industry or just a creative career in general is tough as it is. Add in being highly sensitive and it's even harder.
I must admit, because I haven't used the word empath a lot in my own vocabulary. I did look it up because I was like, what exactly is that? But after your research, how would you describe, we know what highly sensitive person means, so what's an empath?
If I could just sum it up in 2 words, I would say emotional sponge. We're emotional sponges. We absorb people's energies. We pick up so many different things throughout the day. If we're around large groups of people, we sense little nuances that things that most people might miss, whether it's, a certain gesture, a tone of voice, or little things like that. We kind of have spidey senses, right? And then it sort of goes into our bodies, it goes into our brains. And sometimes we just generally need a lot more time at the end of the day to sort of debrief and de-stress and let go of these energies because they move through us a little bit differently. So, for example, I like to refer to my husband as like, not that he doesn't have empathy, but the difference between an empath and a non-empath, if he's like the Keurig coffee that brews in 5 seconds, right? That's his emotional filter. Whereas I'm like the big pot of coffee. It takes me, a solid 5 minutes to brew coffee. Like that's how my emotional filter works. It just takes longer.
Do you think what came first, chicken or the egg with artists? Are empaths attracted to the artist world? Or do you think like that's generally we're more inclined towards it? Or do you think it's just everywhere?
Totally. I think, well, it makes sense that we're drawn to the arts because art requires sensitivity. So it actually makes a lot of sense that most artists, creatives are highly sensitive, highly empathic because we pull so much from our intellect, our emotions to create art, to create our writing, to create whatever it is that we're creating. So, I think we're the perfect conduits for creativity, but it doesn't necessarily mean we're only in creative fields. Like 1 in 5 people are empaths. That's the going stat. And so it can be yoga teachers. It could be people in healthcare. These are all people that, quote unquote, aren't necessarily what the typical, how you would view creatives, but they still experience the struggle of being highly sensitive.
That's so fantastic. Now you've identified a gap in the self-help market regarding the specific needs of creative artists and the challenges that we face in our lifestyles. So delve into the challenges that you think sensitive individuals
Yes.
in the art. What kind of challenges would you say are the main ones? Any insights that would be useful for our listeners around that area?
Sure. I think being your own boss is one of the biggest struggles because every single day it's on you. From the second that you wake up to how your workday goes to how you run your business, it's all on you. So whether or not you have, issues with anxiety, depression, ADHD, or whatever those things are that may already be sort of factors that you have to sort of deal with and cope with, it's all on you as a creative entrepreneur. So I think that lifestyle, just in general, it's not the norm. It's not a 9 to 5. There's nobody to answer to. So the responsibility on yourself and how you drive your success really comes down to you. So I think that pressure alone, on top of having to pull from your creative well all the time, it's a perfect recipe for a mental health disaster. That's why, that's why I was like, okay, like we need a book that, caters to this lifestyle. So I would say, yeah, having routines that work for you. And as a creative, everybody's going to respond to routines differently. For the longest time, I was a night owl in my 20s, and that's when I was most creative. And, one of the things I talk about in the book is finding out that sweet spot where you're the most creative in the day and tailoring your entire day around that time. So that'll really help you set yourself up for success. If you just pinpoint that one point, maybe it's 5 a.m. when you write the best, it's like, can you tailor your day around that time? So little things like that.
Very, very helpful. And statistically, artists are 10 times more likely to experience depression. Why do you think that is, in your opinion? Why so common, depression?
Yeah, I think I really believe that drawing the connection between artists, empaths, and highly sensitive people and creatives has been a little bit overlooked Like I think it's just the pure fact that we are often empaths and therefore we just think and feel much more deeply,
So
you
true.
know?
Yeah.
I think that alone is a struggle. And if you don't know how to support yourself, for example, they recommend up to 2 hours of alone time a day just for an empath to unwind. And if you're not getting that, over time, compound over time, it's kind of like a pressure cooker, right? So I think that those two things of the fact that you just based on your character trait, you need extra time. And if you're not able to give that to yourself, it can be a disaster. So I think that's really the reason why drawing that connection that artists are often empaths.
That's so true. And I think sometimes when we don't realize that, we compare ourselves. It's that comparisonitis thing to
Yeah.
somebody, maybe it's our spouses, that just
Right.
doesn't need that. That there seems to be like the
Right.
slow burn energy versus
Yeah.
the caffeinated
Yeah.
squirrel that we can
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
But that's actually really interesting to hear that it's like 2 hours. That I can relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
I love being with
Mm-hmm.
people, definitely an extrovert, but definitely love to recharge alone, which I imagine you would be the same. Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. So, having gone through depression yourself, which you shared about, you developed some tools to overcome it yourself. You talk about the shortlist technique, I believe, and a method for
Yeah.
helping.
Yeah.
Can you share a little about what that is?
Sure. So when I was depressed, I really was not functioning at all. Like I was in bed most days. I was either not sleeping or sleeping all day. I wasn't eating. It was a disaster. Like I just couldn't function. And also my emotions were all over the place, couldn't control anything. Everything was just a fog. So functioning in general was difficult. So I created the short list, which kind of got me through it. And the short list was 3 to 5 small, manageable tasks. It could be whatever you want it to be. It could be take a shower, take a walk, get 10 minutes of sunshine, do one work task, phone a friend, whatever it is, like whatever those small, manageable tasks look like to you. And it gave me something to do. So I was, again, like just not functioning, having a hard time getting out of bed. And if I got up, if I managed, if I was awake, I'd be like, all right, let's pull out the short list, 3 to 5 things. That's what we're doing today. And little by little, I was able to just gain a little bit of traction with some momentum. And that momentum is what kind of got the ball rolling again. And eventually I started to feel a little bit more like myself.
That sounds so simple and easy to achieve. And I know that depression feels like you could spend your whole days just watching Netflix and not realizing that you've watched 8 episodes and the day's gone. It's almost like you're in a vortex, isn't it, of just apathy, I think is a really good word. It's like you lose your energy, you lose your mental vitality. So little things like that can be so good just to be able to go, how can I pull myself out of this vortex?
Yes. And I remember having a lot of patience too, which was really important because there were days where, for example, like one of the things that was on my short list was to pick up my guitar for 10 minutes, because at the time I was also experiencing writer's block. I was depressed and I had writer's block. So I couldn't write any songs. I wasn't inspired. Nothing was coming to me. But part of my short list was pick up the guitar for 10 minutes. Just pick it up for 10 minutes, write something or try to write, even if it's one line, one lyric, just whatever, and not put so much pressure on myself and just giving myself a lot of patience. So if I picked up that guitar for 10 minutes, that was a win. If I didn't write a song that day, that's okay. So the combination of the short list and just having tons of patience and compassion for myself, that was what changed it for me.
Would you say living in LA, does that work for or against your mental health?
Oh, interesting question. I guess it depends on your experience, right? Because, a place is just a place and everybody can have a very different experience in the same place. I moved to Los Angeles because it's basically the center of the music industry. And the weather's lovely and I can afford to own a house. And, so I was living in New York and it was just like,
Yeah.
let's get out of here. Yeah.
Yep.
Loved New York. But yeah, I was like, I'm ready to move on. So I think, it just depends on your experience. And generally speaking, the location and the place for me is happy. It's sunny. The weather's nice. I have tons of space. It's the birds, everybody's friendly and talks to each other. But, I think it's also just the music industry in general. It just has, it has its challenges, and that's kind of its own thing, I think, as opposed to just being connected to the place.
Very good answer. Safe for all the LA listeners too.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're safe. You can stay. Considering the often demanding and sometimes stressful nature of creative work, it's not sometimes, it's often stressful, really. Could you give listeners a glimpse into how they can create a healthier balance between creative pursuits, which is a very energetic go, go, go thing, and overall well-being? Like, how can they balance that, in your opinion, a little better?
Well, I think everything really starts with awareness. Like, I know that's such a cliche answer, but it really is the truth.
It's
like
true,
having
yeah.
those times to check in with yourself and get aware of what's going on. For example, I went to therapy one time and I was having a meltdown. I was like, can you give me some self-care tips? And she sent me, and I was prepared for like, dealing with childhood trauma and like all the heavy stuff, right? And she was like, go home, monitor your sleep, monitor your diet, monitor your exercise, and monitor your water intake. She sent me home with the basics. And I was like, seriously? That's it? Like,
I paid you for home. That.
But what was so funny about it was I went home and I was failing miserably at all the basics. So it was just that I was missing that awareness. Like I wasn't even aware that my basics were really low. And that's something that I talk about in the book as well, is like really checking in on those basics. Because sometimes we overcomplicate it, and those 4 things can make all the difference in the world between feeling good that day or making a good decision that day or feeling creative, so those 4 things are so simple, but so impactful. And then once you're nailing those basics, then you can kind of up your, what do you want to tackle next in terms of your self-care? So
is there one particular, one particular method of self-care that you're like, that is weird, but it really works for me?
I was dealing with some trauma and I needed to release it. So one of the things that I picked up in my spiritual journey was to write down the quote unquote rage or the anger or whatever on a piece of paper and light it on fire. So that was really powerful for me because, my whole life is in journals. I write everything down and like kind of keep everything. But it was like I write it down and I burn it and it's destroyed and the smoke carries it away and it's transmuted and it's like just no longer exists anymore. So when I first heard about it, I was like, really? You want me to completely destroy it? But that the process of that was really helpful. It definitely felt good on my soul to release something through the element of fire.
And it's actually very visceral and very creative as well, doing something like that to release. I used to write things on a piece of paper. And then I had a little box that once it went in the box, my worry box or whatever, then it was released. Just these little creative acts can be super empowering, can't they? And really be helpful. So you don't burn the house down.
Fire safe container. Okay.
Your dedication to empowering creatives emotionally and creatively is really inspiring and rare. Can you share any other personal discoveries or experiences that shaped your understanding of the importance of self-care for the creative community?
Sure. I think just in general, like being a songwriter in the room with many other creatives all the time, I've been in the room enough times to see the common threads that everybody deals with the same thing. Yeah. Everybody's got something going on. And like in the songwriting room, like that's when you get to see people most vulnerable and sharing their personal stories. And like that's sort of like the magic part of the, as a songwriter, it's getting to sort of peer behind the curtain into other people's lives. And so while I get to have these private moments with all these people, I see all the same things. So I think that's something that is just kind of like a nice little comforting, thing for everybody to know, is that like whatever you're going through, there's probably somebody going through something similar, or, that you're not alone in your experience.
It's so true. Just the other day, my little girl, my daughter, it's just this as an example of that, said, I don't tell anyone at school that sometimes I still come to your bed because I'm scared at night. She's only 8, but she felt shame. And often we feel shame because we think we're alone. And she said, nobody else at school's going through this. And I said, well, how do you know they're not all like you? Just because they don't say it because they feel shame. And I think the same with artists is that unless we outright tell our community we're struggling, we wouldn't release the same information from other people. And like you said, it really is, I would say as well, the majority of creatives that are have said, I'm going to make it my career rather than my hobby. Definitely. How do you envision the future of the creative community changing and evolving, considering the increasing emphasis on collaboration and empathy in your world? And do you foresee like changes or developments that could positively impact the industry for well-being?
Yeah, I think the conversation around mental health is definitely improving, but there's still tons of stigma, and there's still sort of like this air of like, let's all just showcase all the wonderful, successful things and amazing things about our life all the time, and not share the crappy things that are going on. So, and social media has a lot to do with that. Just, the way our society is kind of built and our belief systems around that. But I do think that we're getting to a point where people just need it. They need the support. They need the truth. They need to be honest and real and open and vulnerable and connection too, and create connection with one another, because we're so good at being disconnected now. So
we really
we're in the world of AI and everything, but like human connection is never going to not be important. So I think we're kind of at this tipping point where things have to change for the better in terms of well-being and our mental health and how we take care of ourselves. Otherwise, it's not going to work out. So, the other thing that I was going to mention is that I really, as part of my mission, is to just really nurture the community. So, I created the Songwriter Series, which is a one-to-one mentorship program online. Anyone can tune in and get mentored by hit songwriters. And that's something I never had growing up, was being able to just be in the room with people that are really doing it and get a chance to, learn from, top songwriters, top people in the industry. So I really want to start curating and nurturing the community with feminine leadership, because, the industry is still very male dominated, and I would like to change that.
Yeah, it's true. It's true, especially when you get into the roles of leadership, directing, producing, those sorts of things. You're right. It's actually really lovely to see more women just take that ground and take that place. It's very liberating for us females.
Yes, 100%.
Absolutely. And you're committed to fostering a supportive network where artists and creatives can freely exchange experiences. One of those, it's through the Songwriter Series you mentioned, and they can navigate challenges and celebrate successes. So why do you believe in the power of collaboration, open dialogue, and empathy to break barriers? What is it about collaboration that you think works?
I think, part of the reason why I created the Songwriter Series is because I invested in my own coaching this past year as well. And writing a book was a brand new thing for me, didn't know what I was doing. And I joined a group of writers and other women that are all writing books and really, truly supporting each other. So I was on the receiving end of that nurturing and, being amongst other people that are doing similar things that you're doing and truly supporting each other. And that was something that I hadn't really experienced in my life. And I was like, where is this in the music industry? Because this is so powerful. And if I was able to create something like this and give this to the community, what would people be able to do, Like
Mm.
what projects would transpire, what artists would come out of the woodwork, what songs would be created if we were supported this way, as opposed to just being lone wolves all the time and like, kind of keeping to our own corners or whatever. So I think that was the big difference was I was able to be in a room with women that are doing things that I was wanting to do and feeling truly supported. And I wanted to replicate that in some sort of way in the music industry. So I think when other artists can be in the room and see other songwriters that are, doing new things and truly supporting each other. Okay, no competition, no none of that. Like really like, hey, you got a big song, good for you. Like congratulating each other, like that culture has not quite hit yet. I think there's still definitely like competition and, especially amongst women too. So, and I really want to see that change.
And what do you think the root of why we tend to, particularly as women, but it's obviously not just women, why do you think competition rather than cheering, like cheer rather than kind of tearing down? What do you think that is?
Right. I can't say for sure, but at least in my experience, I'm just pulling from my experiences, like just in general. Like if I was to just go back to high school, for example, right? Let's
Mm,
high school. It's about the boy, right? Like, oh, the boy,
yeah.
which, getting the boy. And if you don't get the boy, it's like, oh, the other girl got the boy. So like
Yeah.
some of our first neurological experiences with other girls very early on in life had some sort of tinge of competition in it. And we weren't necessarily put in situations where we're supposed to support each other. So I
Yeah.
just think it's just something that, like, again, I can't say for sure that that's like everybody's experience, but in my experience, I think that that's sort of like our brain sort of put things in a certain category. And then we never really learned how to really not identify each other as a threat or a competition, but rather a peer, a friend, a collaborator,
Mm.
that kind of thing. So
Yeah, that's true.
yeah.
It's probably learnt behavior. We haven't learnt to actually flip
Hmm.
that switch in our brain. That is a really good answer. What advice or message would you like to share with our audience to encourage them in their journeys of becoming more self-care prone?
Ooh, I love that. I would just say that I would explore a bit of a mindset. Sometimes we pick up mindsets that don't serve us. And if you're not taking care of yourself, there's probably a good reason that you have this mindset that's blocking you. It could be something from your parents or something you picked up in society or whatever. Like there could be a mindset that's blocking you. So explore that mindset and challenge it and know that self-care is going to be the key for your overall success and well-being long term. Yeah.
That's so good. What advice now would Stephanie give her younger self? Like you said, 20 years you've been doing this. It's a while, yeah. What would you say to young Stephanie that you know now that you wish you knew then?
Um, I would just say to just have more fun. I think when I first started, I was very, very serious. And like, I still am. I'm a Capricorn. Okay. Like we work really hard. We're very serious. And I've, obviously being married to my husband, he's like kind of, he shows me the humor and the fun and things a lot more. But as a kid, I took things really seriously. And I think if I could go back in time, I would just tell her to just have a little more fun. Don't worry so much about X, Y, and Z, and it's all going to work out. And there's lots of exciting things in store. Yeah.
So beautiful. It's so nice to be able to speak to our younger inner child and just say, hey,
Yeah.
it's going to be all right.
Yeah.
It's very healing. Thank you so much for these valuable insights and tips. And your dedication to enhancing the well-being of artists is just really, really valuable. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Where can listeners find you online?
Sure. I'm on Instagram, probably the most. I'm also on TikTok. I'm on Facebook too. I'm not on there as much, but I am on there. So I would say Instagram, and then my email is info@stefanifryzel.com. And yeah, I'm definitely reaching out to people. So if you want to get in touch, just hit me on my socials.
Great. So to finish, let's talk about accepting your gift of sensitivity, because it's not about toughening up, it's about smartening up and getting wise with how you handle it. So I'm going to just give you 3 takeaways to finish the episode. Number 1, prioritize your well-being. That means if you know that you're a sensitive person, don't start your day scrolling social media and letting your heart get triggered and your mind get triggered. Start your day intentionally with self-care rituals like a workout, nutritious food, journaling before you let the world in, and avoid immediately diving into emails and things like that so that you can set a positive tone for the day. Also, work out where the negative energy is coming from in your life. Consider that the source of the question could be for others who, when they say that to me, what is their motivation? And when you're confronted with it, is there any truth in it? Because understanding why someone else is being critical or you perceive them to be critical can really empower you to respond more effectively. Often, if it's something negative on social media or whatever, it's more about them than you. And 3, feel what you feel, but don't attach to it. Don't dwell on it. Allow yourself to feel any emotion or pain briefly, but avoid attaching and getting stuck there and dwelling on it and letting the mental drama take over. Acknowledge the hurt in your body and give it a place and a time, and then say goodbye to it and focus on healing instead of dwelling on the negative emotions. So make sure you join me on social media. I would love to have you follow me on Instagram or Facebook under Lara Bianca Pilcher. Let me know what you thought of today's episode. Jump on and give us a 5-star review. I would love that. It means so much. It helps us go up in the algorithm and gets more people listening. Anyway, guys, until next time, bye. Phew, today's masterclass is done. I love reaching back and saying, I've done this, and helping you learn the easy way. If you want more, head to larabiancapilcher.com for show notes, links, freebies, my blog, coaching and courses, and you can also head to my socials, Lara Bianca Pilcher on Instagram and Facebook. I'm also on Twitter and Pinterest. Thanks again for listening. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts. That would mean the world to me. And of course, keep on living the healthy, wealthy, wise artist living towards your dream life. Bye, friends. P.S. Shout out to my hottie hubby, Andrew Pilcher, who does all the editing on this podcast.